Brexit's like a rabbit hole. Have you ever been reading a Wikipedia article which leads you to another article and then another and another, and 6 hours later you're reading about the digestive system of a giraffe, wondering how you got there? Well, Brexit is something similar. In fact, the media has been talking about so many details of Brexit that the very word has become an everyday verb.
Brexiteer. Saying goodbye to everyone at a party, and then proceeding to stick around.
The big questions we have are, why is the UK still a part of the European Union? Why have they been arguing for such a long time? And what are they arguing about? Now, you might not have noticed, but London and Brussels have been negotiating for more than 3 years now, and there is still no end in sight. Even now, there is still a possibility that the UK might have another referendum and remain an EU member. So, the questions for today are, well, what are they arguing about? Why is the UK still in the EU? Who is to blame for all of this Brexit mess taking so long? Should we blame Brussels or London or just nobody in particular? Well, today we're going to answer all of these questions, but before we do, let's take a look back at the history.
Possible deal.
On the 23rd of June 2016, the United Kingdom called a referendum with a clear question. Should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union or leave the European Union? 51.8% of the voters said leave. Many people think a 1.8% difference is not enough to make such a drastic decision. Others say that it's democracy in action. But the truth is, from a strictly legal point of view, Brexit could be easier than it looks. To make a comparison, the Catalonian separatists in Spain pose a real challenge to the law. Why? Because the Spanish constitution does not recognize the right to self-determination, and this is why no one knows what to do there. However, in this case, the UK doesn't have a constitution, so technically speaking, everything is possible as long as Parliament votes in favor of it. And EU legislation does recognize the right to leave the Union. There you have it.
Any member state may decide to withdraw from the Union in accordance with its own constitutional requirements. Treaty of the European Union, Article 50.
In other words, if they had wanted, the UK could have already left the European Union. They do not need a deal, at least from a legal perspective. The problem? This would be an economic disaster. With no special deal, the UK would trade with the European Union under the common rules of the World Trade Organization. This means a lot of border controls, and especially tariffs. Many of you might say, well, so what? Australia has the same tariffs with Europe, and they're doing pretty well. And, well, yeah, of course they are. The thing is that Australia and Europe don't really trade that much with each other. But half of the UK's exports, they go to Europe. If we suddenly put tariffs on all of those products, most of the UK companies would suffer and some would go bankrupt. And the same would happen with some EU companies. But not only that, the European Union itself would have a hard time. Why? Well, mainly because of its budget. You see, many EU budgets are not approved for one specific year. For example, the agricultural budget, which is one of the most important, covers 6 years of policy. This means that in the year 2014, Brussels negotiated a budget that will last until 2020. Back then, in 2014, the UK was a member of the Union and also one of its main contributors. If they want to leave now, the EU says, well, alright dude, I'm okay with you leaving, but you did already commit to pay millions and millions of pounds, and well, I made my calculations based on that money, so you gotta keep paying. This is what we call the Brexit Bill. That's the amount of money that the UK must pay in compensation. But make no mistake, this has not been the biggest point of disagreement. We're going to get to that later. What you need to understand now is that both the EU and the UK want a deal. The question is, what kind of deal? And here is the problem. The Brexit referendum left a very polarized British society, a country divided between Brexiteers and Remainers. The first victim of this was the Prime Minister himself, who was, just in case you forgot, a man named David Cameron. Cameron organized the referendum, but he personally voted to remain. And, well, how can you successfully negotiate a way out if you wanted to stay in? It was a clear sign that he had to resign. So instead of calling for elections, he made a primary vote within his own party, the Conservative Party, also known as the Tories, and the winner was this woman.
Theresa May says Brexit means Brexit. and there will be no attempt to remain inside the EU.
And as we always say here on VisualPolitik, as it was said, so it was done. As soon as Mrs. May put her soles on Downing Street's floor, she activated Article 50. London then had 2 years to reach a deal with Brussels and leave the Union. At this moment, everything was going as planned. But then May wanted to secure Parliament's support. Polls suggested she could reach a bigger Conservative majority, so in June of 2017 she called for elections, and, well, this was the result.
Theresa May loses overall majority in UK Parliament.
Yes, you heard that right. Theresa May's plan completely backfired. She failed so much that in order to be in the government, she had to reach a deal with a minority party, the DUP. So who are the DUP? What do they stand for? Well, we'll come to that later, but for now, just remember their name because it's very important. The thing is, with a less conservative parliament, Mrs. May went to Brussels to start the negotiations. A few days later, she returned with a deal. The EU was happy with the conditions, and May was happy too. She just had to get one last thing: Parliament's approval. And, well, what do you think happened? Did they pass it? Well, the result was a historic defeat for May. Almost nobody voted in favor of her deal. Even half of her own party said no to her. And so now you might be wondering, well, why? What was so wrong with May's plan? In order to understand, we must tell you a story about tomatoes. And yes, I did say tomatoes, so let's just get into the story, shall we?
Soft Brexit versus hard Brexit.
If you thought all tomatoes were created equal, you better think again. We have transgenic tomatoes and non-transgenic tomatoes. Europe, for better or worse, has very strict regulations against GMOs. Now, we don't really want to get into the debate of whether GMOs are good or bad here, but the truth is, all EU member countries have the same anti-GMO regulations. Thanks to this, a Spanish farmer can sell his tomatoes in Germany, Belgium, the Czech Republic, or wherever he wants without any problem. Nobody's afraid that a Spanish tomato is going to be GMO because nobody in the EU sells GMOs. Right, so far so good. But here is the political problem. Argentina has softer regulations with regards to GMOs. So let's say Spain wants to make a trade deal with Argentina so they can buy tomatoes from them. All of a sudden, this Spanish farmer could buy GMOs from Argentina. And that would mean that since Spain is in the European market, this Spanish farmer could sell GMOs in Germany, Belgium, and the Czech Republic. As you can imagine, the other countries would not be happy with this. This is why being an EU member country means that you are restricted when making deals with other countries. But hold on a minute, because we're not done yet. There are many European countries that don't belong to the European Union but have special deals with Brussels. For example, Norway, Iceland, or Liechtenstein are not EU members but can sell freely to Europe. Norwegian salmon is sold everywhere from France to Poland, to give you an example. So what does this mean for the Norwegian government? Well, it means that even though they are out of the EU, they must follow the same regulations as a member. This is the price they have to pay for having access to one of the world's biggest markets. And here is where the problem starts for the UK. What May suggested was very similar to what Norway has. This is what we call a soft Brexit. It basically means, well, alright, we don't want to be in the EU anymore, but we're still going to play by your rules. Brexiteers essentially said, that is not happening. We voted Brexit because we don't want to follow the rules of Brussels. Okay? Alright, so what do the true Brexiteers want? Well, they want what they call a hard Brexit. This means that the United Kingdom doesn't play by Brussels' rules, and therefore they can do trade deals with whoever they want. Does this mean that they wouldn't be able to sell tomatoes to Europe as easily as they used to? Well, yes, of course. They would have to add lots of customs controls, but this is the price for being really out of the Union. And of course, the tomatoes were just an example to understand the situation better. A hard Brexit would have lots of consequences for other products, as you can imagine. Machines, cars, food, you name it. But the question now is, well, why don't they go for a hard Brexit then? I mean, what's the problem with it? Okay, so you see, if the UK was just one island, there'd be no problem at all, but the UK has 136 inhabited islands, and a problem can be found on one of them in particular, Ireland. Some of you might not be aware of this, but Northern Ireland is also part of the UK, and Northern Ireland has a land border with the Republic of Ireland, which is not a part of the UK. Okay, so now you might be thinking, well, what's the problem with that, Simon? Can't you just put customs controls at the Irish border? Where's the problem? In order to understand this, we're going to speak a little bit about the Cranberries and U2. Yep, we're going to talk about music and its very, very dark history.
Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
If you like music or U2, you surely know one of their most famous songs, Sunday, Bloody Sunday. If you don't like U2, maybe you like the Cranberries and their great hit, Zombie. What these two songs have in common is that they both talk about the Northern Irish conflict, also known as the Troubles. You see, this region had two opposing paramilitary organizations, the IRA, or the Irish Republican Army, who were Catholic and left-wing, and they wanted Northern Ireland to be a part of the Republic of Ireland. The Ulster Loyalist paramilitary forces, who were Protestant and right-wing, wanted Northern Ireland to stay as part of the UK. We're talking about a conflict that lasted for more than 30 years and left more than 3,500 casualties, a total bloodbath that affected several generations. If you want to understand the magnitude of this conflict, there are a lot of movies and a lot of songs that portray the Troubles. But this all came to an end in 1998, when the British Prime Minister Tony Blair reached the famous Good Friday Agreement. Basically, in this deal, the two sides of the fight agreed that Northern Ireland would be British, but the Irish border would remain as a soft border, meaning that everybody could cross it and buy and sell goods without any problem. Now, thousands of people cross that border every single day. A hard Brexit would mean breaking this Good Friday Agreement, and no one wants to do that because it took decades and a bloodbath to get there. But not only that, after the Good Friday Agreement, the violent groups decided to lay down their arms and turn their fight into a political battle. Since then, IRA supporters went to Sinn Féin and Ulster Loyalists went to the DUP. Remember I told you about the DUP some minutes ago? Well, these are those guys. Today, the DUP is a very conservative party that opposes gay marriage and has extreme nationalist feelings towards the UK. They also have 10 MPs in Parliament who supported May's government. As you can imagine, the deal between May and the DUP was extremely controversial. Don't forget that some of their members had been linked to a violent group. But you know that politics is sometimes complicated. So, why do I want to highlight the DUP particularly?
Dangerous liaisons.
After failing with the first deal, Theresa May returned to Brussels in order to negotiate another. But let's be honest here, her deal was pretty much still a soft Brexit. So when she came back to London, the MPs, they said no again. And, well, what did Theresa May do? Well, she thought she'd try again. She went back to Brussels, made some minor changes, and came back to London with pretty much the exact same deal. Even her own party were pissed off with her. It looked like she was playing games, and even the Speaker of the House of Commons took drastic measures.
Brexit. John Bercow rules out third meaningful vote on same deal.
Basically, this is the British way of saying, all right, Theresa May, off. You've tried it once. Stop trying this shit again, okay? By this time, May had to ask Brussels for an extension because she couldn't get support in London. So in the summer of 2019, she resigned. And again, the Conservative Party made primary elections to choose a brand new prime minister. And the winner was the man you see on screen now.
So we're getting ready to come out on October the 31st. Come what may, do or die. Come what may. Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of the UK.
Basically, Johnson's plan was a hard Brexit. This means he wanted hard borders with customs controls and all of that hard stuff. What about Northern Ireland? Well, he came up with a very creative solution. Basically, he wanted to turn it into a special economic zone, so Northern Ireland could trade with the Republic of Ireland without any problem, just the way they had done before. But trade between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK would have to pass through some customs controls. In fact, this idea could have been a good boost for the Northern Irish economy. They could have become a sort of brand new Gibraltar. Brussels was really happy with the deal. I mean, just look at this clip and tell me it's not beautiful.
Hey! I have...
Jean-Claude's the boss here.
Yeah. I have to say that I'm happy about the deal, but I'm sad about Brexit. Have a good time. Thank you.
Yes, Johnson's deal was signed in a friendly mood, and good old Boris thought everyone in London would clap. He'd done it. He'd finally solved the Brexit puzzle. Oh, Boris Johnson, you're so smart. We love you. Let's go get a beer. Except, well, no, that's not what happened.
The UK Parliament just blew up Boris Johnson's Brexit plans.
Yes, it seems British politicians are hard to impress, but let's see the bright side of the story now. Johnson was way closer to reaching a majority than Theresa May. To start with, most of the Tories backed his deal, so why did he lose? Who was the big surprise here? And yes, well, you absolutely guessed it, it was those 10 MPs from the DUP who turned their back on Johnson's plan. But why? Why didn't they like it? Well, think about it. The DUP are die-hard British nationalists, and the idea of Northern Ireland having a special status which makes them virtually closer to the Republic of Ireland sounded like hell to them. And this is when Boris Johnson did the maths, and he said, okay, so what do I need to do to get Parliament's approval on my Brexit plan? Well, I just need 16 more Tory MPs. Just 16 more. Hey guys, what do the electoral surveys say? I call for a general election. Could I get 16 extra MPs that I need? Okay, good. Let's have a general election, shall we? At the time of making this video, we still don't have the outcomes for this election. But so far, surveys say that Boris's bet may be successful. The DUP might not even get seats in Parliament, and the Conservatives are gaining more and more traction. But we also know that surveys are not exactly accurate. So, well, now the question goes over to you. What outcome do you expect here? Do you want as hard a Brexit as soon as possible, or would you like the UK to have a second referendum? Do you think Boris Johnson will succeed in his plan? Well, please leave your answers in the comment section below. And before finishing this video, I'd like to give special thanks to Karim Halal, who helped us with the research for this video. Also, please visit our friends from reconsidermedia.com, the podcast that provided the vocals in this episode that were not mine. As always, don't forget we publish brand new videos just like this one every week, so please do subscribe to this channel, hit that bell button so you don't miss any of our posts, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.
If you want to learn more about politics and world affairs and hear some more of my lovely voice, come check out the Reconsider podcast, where we don't do the thinking for you. Find Reconsider at www.reconsidermedia.com or on Apple or Google Play or your favorite podcatcher.